First Sunday of the year 2024. I hope you're doing great. You're watching Labor Matters right here on KBN TV. We are on DSTV channel 279, Go TV 27, Topstar 102, and live on our Facebook page, which is KBN TV. I am your host, Patricia Chilamgwen. Today we are looking at an interesting topic, which is New Year's resolution. That is what we are looking at today. So if you're joining us for the very first time, Labor Matters, it is a KBN TV and Mr. Owen Kabanda's program, which we bring to you every Sundays at 14 hours. A show which we usually talk about employment. That is what Labor Matters is all about. So the number which is right on your TV screen, you have to use it to send in your comments and your contributions right here on KBN TV. So we are happy to be here today because we really had an amazing year, which is 2023. We just want to say thank you for all the comments, all the text messages which you sent, and everything that you've been to us here on Labor Matters. We just want to say thank you, because it is because of you that we are here. Without you, there is no Labor Matters. So in the studio, you might be wondering, why is Patricia just talking? Is Mr. Kabanda in? Yes, in the studio I am with Mr. Owen Kabanda as usual on KBN TV. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Very, very fine, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Good to see you in 2024.
Good to see you too, and glad to actually be here.
Amazing. So last year we did talk about work around employment matters that helped employers and managers, the employees, and basically job seekers. We did tackle such kind of topics, and just to say thank you, you really taught us a lot last year. You did an amazing job.
Thank you so much. You did a great job too.
Amazing. I don't know why I always smile when you say you did a great job.
He's doing a good job
so because he's the one.
But that's a fact, and it's also even feedback from a number of viewers who call us direct, and they are liking the program because of your presentation. So that's why I don't hesitate to say you did a great job.
Amazing.
And looking
Thank you
forward
very
to
much.
that great job this year.
And just a reminder, last year we did talk about me having a certificate of sort.
Yeah,
we're still on that.
Human resources.
Human resources, still on that. Yeah, to get started, Mr. Kabanda, like we said in the past, people would like to benefit a lot from your neuropsychology as they deal with individual issues at a personal level and at work. Yeah. Today we're talking about a New Year's resolution. Mr. Kabanda must make mention, and if you could explain the science behind effective goal setting from a neuropsychological perspective.
Okay. Yeah, so when we talk about goal setting, it's really the in thing now. At the New Year starting, that's the most common thing now that is happening to a lot of people. We are saying New Year's resolutions. There are people are busy now coming up with all sorts of lists around what they want to do this year. It's also interesting that I'm one of the WhatsApp groups, and one person shared at the end of the year last year that so there's a picture of this guy with this very big stone, and on it it's written, "I'm looking for my pastor who said this is going to be my year," and things have not happened. So the years come and the years go. What is key for all of us at the personal level, at the individual level, at work level, in business, is to sit down and ask ourselves, where do we want to go for this particular year? Now, a lot of these things we're talking about, they cannot happen outside the human brain. It is the brain that you use to sit down and make up the goals that you want to achieve in a particular year. So from the psychology point of view, it's very, very important that when you're setting these goals, they are very clear. You really spend time making things which are very clear, because what then starts to happen at an individual level is that in your brain, there are hormones that get to be produced. And those hormones, like dopamine, they help you to feel good when you're achieving the targets that you set. They kind of reward you. They make you feel that you have achieved something. You go to make that the way you feel when you achieve something becomes extremely important. Because sometimes you find that people will go through life You'll be setting all that nice list of things you want to achieve, but if they are not put properly, the goals are not clear, then you are doing a disservice to the brain, because it will not have a chance to feel that now I've achieved something at an individual level. And so these things, the same way that companies set clear goals, it's the same way that even at an individual level, we should sit down and really make those goals which are very clear, and then that helps you, especially at a personal level, when you achieve them, to feel really good, and that motivates you even to do more.
Amazing. Mr. Kabanda, we are now in the new year, and what advice would you have for individuals in setting realistic and achievable goals? Because I believe when we are last year, people like, okay, I'm planning to do A, B, C, D, and whatnot. But we are in 2024 now. So maybe your word of advice to such individuals.
So if you're an employee, for instance, or we have talked about managers and CEOs or business owners, or just individuals, maybe in school, or you're not even in employment, or whatever stage you are at in your life, it is very important that the goals that are being set are very realistic. I was just talking about the impact that this does, the impact it has when you have clear goals. When you're achieving those goals, there's really a lot of hormones that are produced in the brain for you to continuously apply yourself so that you achieve more and more of your goals. So when you set goals which are unrealistic, some people, without taking time to look at their situation, they'll go and set very high goals. But what then that does is you end up failing to meet those goals. And then what does it do now to the brain? You kind of feel depressed because you are feeling you are not worth it, you haven't put in enough effort. So it's important that the aspect of realistic goals is really taken seriously when you are setting the goals. Then also there's the opposite side of it, where you set goals which are too easy to achieve. Again, you are deceiving yourself. So if you wanted, for instance, to lose X amount of weight, or you want to make X amount of money, you know you have the capacity to do so much, but because you don't want to again apply yourself so much, you just set goals which are very low. What that does is that it also does not stretch you. So in the process, it is also not beneficial. That's why we are talking about realistic goals. And again, these are things that people come for training, and there's someone to advise on the step-by-step process of setting those goals which are very realistic. So you need to be in a space where the targets you are making for yourself, in whichever field, in whichever area of your life, they are achievable. And again, we have talked in the past about the SMART goals. They should be the goals that you know that they are specific. It cannot just be, this year I'll lose weight. Okay. It's too vague. It's too broad. So you are losing weight when? Or to what quantum are you also talking about? Or this year, today, this year. And in years, it cannot be too vague. You need to be very specific. What do you want to do this particular year? We sit in a lot of meetings, or even having colleagues. Balance. You finish if the balance. What is it that is actually balancing? So what then starts to happen, because you are just saying things without really making what you want to achieve to be very specific, it becomes very difficult. How are you also going to measure that you are making progress towards those goals? So it again becomes extremely important that the goals you have are measurable, and they should also be attainable, like we said, because it also helps your brain really to feel that you're achieving something. If you are setting unattainable goals, it becomes also, again, very difficult. We have talked about time. Again, what is the time frame for achieving these things? It cannot be too short or too long. And also the timing of what you want to achieve in this particular year, it has to be very close to what is achievable. Again, that we are mentioning these things because they are well oiled together. It's like a puzzle. So if you say, I want to make X amount of money this year, we have 12 months and the year started. So when do you expect to make X amount? If you are earning 2,000 and you say this year I'm going to save, I don't know, 1,000. So what is the time frame? Okay, it's in a year. Or by October, I'll save this. Or by November, I'll lose this kind of weight. Or by November, I'll buy such kind of land, or is it a house, or whatever it is. So the key issue is the targets you're going to set for yourself. They need to be very smart. And again, this sometimes it sounds very theoretical, but it's when you sit down and start now adding these things together. So you need to look through. Remember, in the previous episode, we really talked about the 6 areas or more: psychologically, socially, financially. So when you're looking at all those areas, you should then be asking yourself, financially, on the financial aspect, what am I planning to achieve in this area? On the maybe social aspect, what am I trying to achieve? On the spiritual aspect, what am I trying to achieve in this area? What are you also going to be measuring? Is it your number of times you have been to church? Is it the number of times you have done community service? So what exactly are you measuring that you're improving in any of those areas that we did talk about in previous episodes? So it's really important that your goals are measurable and they're attainable, and you put time to it. But most importantly, also make sure that it is something that you can follow through. Not too easy, again, not too difficult to end up just frustrating yourself.
Amazing. To our viewers, if you've just joined us, you're watching Labour Matters right here on KBN TV. The number is right on your TV screen. Please, all you have to do is send us a text message and not calling in. Unfortunately, we won't pick any calls, so if you have any questions or concern about what we're talking about today, all you have to do is please drop us a text message, or maybe you can go on our Facebook page and get to drop us a comment right there. So Mr. Kabanda, before setting goals, I would like to find out how important it is for individuals to evaluate their current personal situations.
It is very important for individuals to evaluate their personal situations. We see sometimes people are, let's say they're in a group, no, me and my friends, we're going to be running like this. Me and my friends, we are going to save like this. Okay. Have you taken time to really look at your personal situation? And why we emphasize these things, even during trainings that we do. Your situation is very different from somebody else. You could be same people, be it in a workplace, for instance, you are all officers. Even if you are in a family, you can be brothers and sisters, but your situations are totally different. So it's always important that you take time to understand your personal situation. And personal situation, we are saying, first of all, what do you desire to do this year? Secondly, what is even your family situation? Do you have some obligations? Because you may want to do certain things, but you have family obligations here. Maybe you have children, or maybe you have sisters, or or dependents you're keeping, which could affect how you do certain things. Apart from your family obligations, if you are at work, if you are working, there are certain obligations. The workplace may be required to report at 7 hours and knock off whatever time that has been set. So how does that affect your other goals? Maybe if you want to do health goals, you want to be going to the gym or running, what does that do to you? Another person could be in business. In that business, maybe they need to wake up and go and sell in a market. What does that do for the goals that they are going to set? Sometimes you can be a manager, you are not just an employee. Again, there are certain obligations. So every time we are setting goals, and these are the things that we emphasize all the time. You cannot just do goals because everyone is doing the goals. No. You have to, yes, generally you can look at how people set goals, but then you have to now sit down and ask yourself, what is my current situation? Where am I? If you are an employee who is on these short-term contracts, as an example, you are totally different from someone who is on a long-term contract where maybe they get gratuity. You are also different from someone who is on a permanent contract, who is going to have this job until the time they reach their retirement age. So you cannot be making your plans or your goals just because everyone else is doing. You have to look at everything. Maybe this other guy has a permanent contract. He can afford to say, in the next 10 years, I'll do like this. But for you, maybe you have a contract which is just for 2 years. And in these 2 years, you should be asking yourself, okay, what then do I do in terms of my career? How do I ensure that I still keep this job? How do I ensure that, okay, the money I get from this job when if my contract is not renewed? What am I going to do? So your plans would be slightly different, in as much as you may be in a group of friends or relatives where you're doing this kind of thing. So taking your personal situation into consideration is extremely important, and it also makes whatever plans you're making to be real. If you have maybe a certain health condition, definitely you might find that you're spending more money in buying your medicines, going to the hospital, or you could have a child or a dependent who is constantly sick. Definitely, even if you're getting the same amount of money with your colleague, maybe you're both on 5,000 or 20,000, your expenses and your goals around your financing, financials could be different. So that's why it's really important that you take all these things into consideration, because everything that you do is really about you. And that's why we focus on personal goals, because personal goal setting, you should take these things into consideration, because they will definitely affect you. Even issues of relationships, they also even affect. You may be single, your friend is married. Okay, we'll be doing this. Maybe your friend is getting extra money from somewhere else, and you don't have. So what is it that you have? And that's why we say, take time to sit down and look at your personal circumstances, your belief systems, your values, your church obligations, your family obligations, your school obligations if you're in school, your work obligations, and everything around you, so that when you're saying, these are my goals for this year, it is very real. It's not this copy and paste, and we see this a lot of times. Oh boy, sending a template, and you are just changing. No, you have to make sure that everything is in line with your life, so that at the end of the day, when you're achieving what you're achieving, it is truly in line with your situation.
Mr. Kanda, if you can also talk about the importance of finances in goal achievement. How can individuals navigate the impact of their financial situation on their annual personal goals?
Definitely. Finances play a very critical role when it comes to personal goal setting. And we see this a lot of times in terms of the mistakes a lot of people make. We come up with very fancy and flowery goals at my resolution. It's like a nice list. So this year I will go to Dubai, I will do this. So you have like a very nice list. Okay. So those goals, maybe you need to think twice. Because everything you are putting together there, you are saying, these will be my goals for this year. You need to now sit down and start breaking things. This activity I'm saying I want to do this year, it is coming at what cost? And we are emphasizing this, and even during the trainings that we undertake for people, this, you cannot run away from it. Because, for instance, if you say, no, I want this year to, give me an example, what someone may aspire to do in a year like this. Let's say, I want the same issue I was talking about, even the gyms. I want to lose weight, I'll be going to the gym this year. A gym is not offered for free. They will charge you, I don't know, 500,000, 500 kwacha, or 1,000, 2,000 to 5,000, I don't know, depending on which gym you are going to and the services you are accessing. So where is that money coming from? Is it coming from your payslip or from your payroll, from the money from your work? Is it being sponsored by someone? Is maybe the company is paying? So you have to look at the costing. So just like companies, what normally we do in companies, we'll have the plans set up, and then we sit down and start looking at the budget. So you have work plans, you have the budget. It's the same concept even at the personal level. You should have your plan where you're saying, okay, so this year, okay, maybe I'm renting, I want to move from where I'm staying. This will come at what cost? Not just saying, no, this year, come in my problem, or this time there's a cholera and whatnot. I think we go to stay somewhere else. But you're going to stay somewhere else. At what cost? If you say, I want now, this year, I want to have a car. I think this year, it is coming at what cost? And where is that money coming from? You say, this year I think it's called Coca-Cola, we're going to build at least. And we see these kind of conversations a lot. Sometimes you just have these ideas, but those just remain ideas. And sometimes you are sharing with everyone, this year I've had a balance of bad, so this year even if for those who are married, they're even busy sharing with the wives and children and relatives and friends. But you're sharing all those things. Have you taken time to sit down and look at what is the cost implication of what you're talking about? So really, when it comes to the aspect around money, we need to make sure that when we say this is what we are going to do this year, we tabulate what we are going to do, then well and good. These are the things you're going to do. They say you are going to go and upgrade your studies. Maybe you have a grade 12, you have a certificate, you want to do diploma or degree. So whatever it is that you, on the academic side, you have put, okay, I want to do this. For things to do with where I want to stay, as I was giving an example, you put everything there. Oh, my clothes now, I want to, this year I'll be looking flamboyant like this, put it there. Whatever your goals are. Oh, this time I want to do farming, put it there. So for me, those are just lists. Basically what you are just doing is items you are listing. List all your items, what you are calling goals. This year our goal is to do this. Health-wise, I think we're going to make sure we are like this. It is okay. Jot down all those things. But then you should spend now time and looking also at the financing side. Each of these activities, it is coming at what cost? So now at this point, we are now having a very serious conversation with yourself. And if you can't do it on your own, you are free again to ask for help from professionals who can assist you. You are now saying, okay, so I was thinking of doing this year some upgrading of my studies. I want to do a diploma or a degree or a master's or PhD, whatever it is. Now, this is coming at what cost? Okay, per term it's this much. Where is this money? So you are now studying these things because now you have to now look at your income and ask yourself, all these things that I've listed and the activities I want to do this year, and you're costing each one. Once you have done the costing of each of those activities, you have the total figure there. You find that those activities you said you're going to do, for instance, they are sitting now at 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000, whatever amount it is. You then have to ask yourself, what is my income? If your activities in a month, they are the activities you proudly said you are going to do for this year, they are sitting at 10,000. Your income is at 5,000. Now we have a problem. Where is the difference coming from? So it is important now to look at what will be now the sources of funding for these activities that I'm setting up for myself this year. Is it coming from some of the activities? Maybe you are not the one to sponsor them. For instance, I was talking about gym services. In some companies, they sponsor people for the gyms to keep them healthy and so on. So maybe while you have a target of the number of times you'll be going to the gym and so on the costing side, this is not coming from your pocket. Maybe also you could have, you are the target this year, I will renovate my house. Maybe that cost is not coming from you. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe you have other sources of income. If you are doing business or you have some sponsors, I don't know. So the key issue when it comes to the financial part is really to be honest with yourself and look at what is it that practically you are able to achieve during this particular year, so that every activity that you're doing on this side, it is supported by the financial capacity that you may have or other sources of funding that you have, so that every activity you're doing can actually end up being achieved. Otherwise, it becomes a very nice list of just things that you are dreaming of achieving.
Well explained, Mr. Kanda. If we can also talk about balancing work or business responsibilities with personal goals, I believe they can be challenging at times. That's because true. A lot of people usually complain trying to balance work and business. But what are some of the strategies which individuals can use to manage such an impact?
That's very true. Working and even being in business and sometimes trying to achieve the personal goals, again, can be very challenging. So it's really important, again, this is why we are saying, take the aspect of planning and goal setting activity to be a very important activity. It's not something that you're just doing as you're whistling, you're moving around. I think my goals for this year. No, because like we mentioned, you have to look at your personal situation. So in this particular case, we are now talking about you're an employee, as an example. If you're an employee, you signed a contract somewhere, and the employer is saying, I need you to work for 8 hours, as an example. You need to report at 8 hours to 17, or is it 7 to 16, whatever time you work, or you're working in the night. So if you were coming up with your personal goals, one of the goals for the year, for instance, is that you are going to be doing some personal business. How then do you manage that business, given your obligations to the employer? If you said you're going to be running, keeping fit, what time do you do that, given the obligations you have for your employer? If you said you're going to be going to church as part of your spiritual goals, what do you do in cases where now the employer requires you sometimes even to work on a Sunday or a Saturday, whichever day is the day of your prayers? So the work that you do, what we encourage people is really to sit down and look at this aspect of the work, and then start to now build what then can you do around the work in terms of the personal goals that you're setting for yourself. Because to set very nice goals, not taking into consideration your obligations, your employment obligations if you're working, it is a futile exercise. Because at the end of the day, remember we were talking about the brain and the dopamine and all those kind of hormones. You want to be in a space where you are practically going to achieve something, rather than putting all these things on paper or even just in your head, and there are things that you can't even implement. So work, for a lot of people in modern day, a lot of people are working. So that is a fact that you can't run away from. So you have to look at the obligations that you have for your employer, and then say, what can I do within the provisions of my contract? You may have a healthy challenge, for instance. You have high BP, you have this diabetes, whatever it is, all these health complications. Yet you still require to work. Yeah. And it could be stressful. So how then do you play around? So what? And you have a goal around your health. So how do you now marry these two? So again, because you are going to be working, you have to now make sure that you are marrying. When do you actually knock off? Do you still want to be, even when your contract says 17 hours, are you going to continue working way into the night? And sometimes as you rise, you are in certain positions, there's even a requirement that you maybe put in more. So are you going to put boundaries and say, okay, this is my work, this is now my personal life? So again, those things are not easy. So when it comes to really setting personal goals, be it on financing, on financials, be it on your health, be it on social aspects, you have to take the work into consideration. If you know that you have work and most of the time you're going to be at work, how then does that affect the time you spend with your loved ones? If you have kids, your wife or your husband, your boyfriend, girlfriend, what time then do you have for them? Because you then have to look at, okay, what can I do and attend to as work, and when do I attend to family and or friends? So that then your goals around your social goals, remember we talked about those social, psychological and so on, you then can properly assign time, and then if you know that you have limited time, you can then focus on quality rather than quantity. So this is when it comes to really looking at the impact of employment on how you set your goals, including even the incomes that come from employment, the salary itself. We talked about the financial effect on your goals. The work you do, the salary you get, your position, all those things could affect even your personal goals. And the same goes on the other end for business. For colleagues who are in business, there's sometimes business has to run even in the middle of the night. How do you now work on the goals for family and friends and relatives and whatnot? How do you work on the goals for your spiritual life? How do you work on the goals on the financial side? So you cannot, again, if you're into business, you cannot run away from the impact of the business on the personal goals that you are setting. So you cannot, this thing that we're emphasizing is being blind to your realities and setting goals that just look nice. This year will be okay. No. Put all those things into consideration.
Amazing. Now, Mr. Kabanda, how important is it for individuals to maintain flexibility in their goals, considering the unpredictability of life? Because a lot of things usually happen, unforeseen circumstances must make mention. But how important it is for individuals to maintain flexibilities in their goals?
Yes. So when it comes to goal setting, once you have set the goals, really as you go along the year, it's also important to be looking at what is it that you are able to achieve. Then there are certain things that happen. You thought you are going to have to win a particular tender to have some money, or there was someone who promised you they promised they will pay for your gym, or they'll buy your or your whatever, your clothes, and these things didn't happen.
Yeah.
So if you made plans and for some reason, one reason or another, things are not going according to plan, you need to be in a space where you realistically review things and say, okay, we have to change our goalposts, we have to change the direction. Because again, this is what we are talking about, how we end up depressing ourselves. You know that something realistically could not happen because of certain factors, but you just still want to be seeing a very nice goal.
Yeah.
Now I told myself I will save 15,000, but then maybe along the way, for some reason, and I don't know what formulas you're using, or where you are saving your money and where you are investing your money, for some reason there was maybe an emergence, but you still want to beat yourself that, okay, I didn't do it. But I'm also not saying you just deliberately do things.
It's a passport.
There has to be some level of discipline,
Yeah.
but my emphasis is that when there's need to make adjustments, you then just have to start looking at how you make your adjustments so that you still keep on track and achieve something at the end of the day, because that really helps you to feel that good feeling that we're talking about from the psychology point of view.
Mr. Kabanda, setbacks are equally uninvitable. These are things that we don't see coming, but they usually happen in the way. But what are some of the strategies which individuals can employ to overcome setbacks in their pursuit of annual goals? What is your take on this?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's the way life is. Sometimes there will be setbacks. Even when you have the best laid plans, sometimes things just happen. Even remember, for instance, even for businesses, the time of COVID, companies had very nice plans, what they want to achieve. COVID hit, things had to change. Now, even this time, Corona has hit, and all of a sudden things have to change. So there will be times, even at a personal level, you could have made a nice plan of how you're going to this year make so much money, or if you're an employee, I'm going to even be saving this amount, or you're in business, I'm going to be making this amount, but maybe things don't work. There could be setbacks. You have a contract which you thought you are going to continue working on, and then all of a sudden your employer says, thank you for your services. The job has finished, which means now even to my nice plans you had will have to change. So setbacks are going to be there. Setbacks do happen. The key issue is, because of the nature of these things, because we were running in a particular direction, or we wanted to go in a particular direction, when we now have setbacks, what it does is it really makes us to now feel, sometimes people end up being depressed because something that they really wanted has not happened. And I know I'm being cautious even when I use that word depression, because it's a huge thing. I know when people just become sad for 2 hours, they say, I'm very depressed. No. From a clinical point of view, for you really to be considered to be depressed, there are a number of factors that have to be assessed, including the period, which could be more than 2 weeks. You are in that very bad state. But I know loosely we use that word, but from the clinical point of view, it's a huge word. So what we are trying to say is that if you come across some setbacks, again, it's not a time to start beating yourself, or just now you give up, or you go into depression and say, no. It's not a matter of really giving up. For me, every setback that you encounter you should be looking at it and asking yourself, what lessons do we learn in this? Remember that it's not always you're going to achieve everything that you set for yourself. And as we've said, even in companies, those things happen. The key issue is to sit down and ask ourselves, what then do we learn in this thing that has happened? How do we then find better ways to deal with this kind of circumstances at a personal level? Yeah. You could have had a nice idea and a nice goal of even in terms of the health we're talking about, but then all of a sudden something else happens. Yeah. And you can no longer continue doing your runs, or maybe something happened, you can no longer do your gyms, or it was on the financial aspect, or it was on whatever aspect that you had planned. So if things happen and there's a setback, for me the key emphasis really is use it as a learning point, and just see, how do I navigate this kind of situation better next time if it ever happens? And how do you plan better? How do we do risk management? Even at a personal level, we should be taking time to look at some risks and see how we can manage them.
Amazing. Now, how can individuals build and leverage a support system to help them stay on track with their annual personal goals?
Yes, really. When it comes to, as human beings, remember, I know I've mentioned this before, we are social beings. And being social beings, we want to be with other people. And sometimes this really helps in motivating you, especially when you're trying to achieve something. Have somebody share your goals with someone that you trust. And again, I have to make mention, it's not everybody who needs to know what you're doing, okay? But again, also, be careful even the type of person you want to consider as supporting you. There are people who can be your friends, even relatives. You will be doing something, they will, okay, yeah, that's okay. You don't want to peg your emotions of that support on such people. They could be really like close friends. I'm not saying best friend, I'm saying close friend. But they don't fully support you. You could be doing something, okay, wait. They don't take time to even question, okay, so this thing you want to do, how do you want to do it? With genuine interest. If ever you come to succeed, they'll be the ones to be the loudest. I knew you do it. But really, for me, you just look and say, okay. The key issue is find people that you think genuinely believes in what you are trying to do. And I'm saying genuinely, capital letters, not cosmetic things. People who you think genuinely believe in what you're doing, put those people around you. Keep them updated. There will be moments when you don't do things. You become accountable to them. You can tell them why you have not maybe gone in a particular direction, or why something has not happened. And usually such friends, they could be friends, they could be relatives, they could be your workmates. Be clear on what you want to achieve, and normally they are going to support you. And when you need their help, also make it clear. My friend, I'm trying to do this year. Like I mentioned last time, I have friends. When I need certain things around technology, I know the friend out there, okay, my friend, this year, I'm planning to do this. And, okay, no, for that, I think what you need is this. Okay, maybe how then do we work around this? When can we have this item delivered? So they start to help you in that regard. And they hold you accountable. Oh, my friend, on my media space, I want to do this year. And they are going to follow up on those things. So my point is, have a support system around you. Those people that are going to believe in what you're doing. And also appreciate them. I always mention this. It's, we are, I don't know, we are in an era where we feel too entitled, like, everybody just has to support me. No, they don't have any obligation. Why should they support you? For what? So if someone genuinely believes in you and they support you, show appreciation, because they are going out of their way to support what you're doing. Maybe it could also benefit them in future, God knows, but really have that support system, appreciate them, let them know what you think, and also value their input. But I must also make your final decision on everything. Even when someone is supporting you and telling you, okay, my friend, on this goal, I think you should do this, you should go this way. Think about everything like we have said, and then make that final decision without necessarily hating them. Also, you can explain to them why you think Don't just shut them. No, boy, what you're saying is, let them understand why you're taking a particular direction. In that way, you develop a group of people around you who really support you and helps you to achieve your goals.
Mr. Kabanda, balancing long-term aspirations with short-term objectives can be a challenge at times. Now, how can individuals strike this balance effectively?
It is very difficult, really, when you look at the long-term aspects. When we talk about long-term goals, for instance, you could be working and you're saying, okay, I want to come and build a house, or I want to have a farm, or I want to come and buy a vehicle, or whatever it is, these kind of long-term goals. You still have to now look at where you want to go versus what you should be doing now. So the aspect that we are emphasizing is that the long-term goals should still be aligned to the short-term, and the short-term aligned to the long-term, so that what you are doing now should be feeding into the long-term the long-term goal you want to actually achieve. So it's very, very important that you look into those things, so that everything you are doing now, every decision, if you are in employment, what you want to change employment, you want to do this. If you are in business, you want to do this, it should be in line with the long-term goals. But don't be too focused on what has to be done in 5, 10, 20 years without paying attention to what you're doing now.
Now, how does the mindset influence the achievement of annual personal goals, and how can individuals cultivate a positive mindset?
Goal setting and the achievement of those goals is really about your mindset. It's really about the brain. And this is why we emphasize, I've said this before, we cannot overemphasize the importance of your brain in all these things. When you look at the goals you set, your mindset needs to be focused on positive things. Most of the times, our brain will shift to negativity. So it requires us to really remind ourselves. I don't want to go into all the neuroscience around the hormones and all those things. This is just a general talk. The point I'm driving at is your attitude towards everything you're doing, the goals you have set for yourself. You want to remain positive. When things go wrong, still remain positive and look at how do I change my direction. Okay? Because the challenges are going to be there. But what is really key is that when you have a right mindset about something, this is why you find things are going wrong, or could be considered as going wrong, or they are not happening in the manner that you planned, but you still find someone who is smiling. You will be in a space where you're under pressure, but you can still manage that pressure. You could be in a place where things are just difficult, but you can still manage them because you have a right attitude towards life generally, towards your goals, because once you have the positive mindset, and we talked about this briefly, we have to understand the cognitive behaviors, aspects of what you do, for instance. Your brain, your cognitive, or your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior, these things, they are interlinked. So if you are going to really focus on thinking about negative things, even for instance, you have not achieved something, or you skip a day when you didn't go to the gym, all of a sudden, I'm doomed. What are you doing to yourself? You eat some meal, all of a sudden you take a guilt trip. What are you doing to yourself? What you need is to adopt a lifestyle which is where you're focusing on doing the right thing, and when you can't do what you intended to do, don't kill yourself. So have a positive mindset. Your behavior should be in line, and your feelings, your thoughts should also be aligned. In that way, it becomes easy.
Because of time, Mr. Kabanda, if you can briefly explain how individuals can set and maintain boundaries to stay focused on their personal goals.
Yeah, so that is really going to, all the time when you set your goals, there will be times when certain things are not going according to the way you planned. Sometimes also one activity of your life is going to spill into another. So you have to start looking at setting boundaries around everything around your life. So when you set your goals, whatever you want to achieve, and we are not going to the details of the goals you should be playing, but the goals you set for yourself, you now need to kind of come up with, okay, this is for work, this is what I'm going to be doing this year. If you're into business, this is what I'm going to do this year. For the aspect around your social life, this is what you're going to do this year. Aspects of your spirituality, this is what you're going to do this year. So every aspect, we've talked about psychological or academic issues, this is what you're going to do. Socially, this is what you're going to do. Emotionally, this is what you're going to do. Spiritually, this is what you do. Financially, this is what you're going to do. So every aspect of your life, you need to be very clear so that you can stop yourself when you find that something is creeping so much into the other. Simple example. You said you're going to start finding time for your family. Okay, this is on the social aspect. But you find that you're still knocking off at 0-1. What does that do? So you have to ask yourself, can I make adjustments? Is it just that the company requires me to completely wake up to 0-5? Or it is personally, at my personal level, I really just want to get the work done. But again, remember, work never finishes. So maybe you have to now make adjustments and have time again on your lifestyle where you are changing certain things and say, this week I'll do up to this time, then I stop so that I can concentrate on the other aspect. Or if it's business, I'm going to run business up to this period. So you have to create some boundaries around the various areas of your life so that it helps you to achieve your goals.
Amazing. If we can also talk about the issue of technology, how can individuals use technology to track and enhance their progress towards annual personal goals?
Yeah, technology, we are now in an era of technology, so it's important that some people, individuals, make use of technology. We've seen, like, if you do your runs, technology is there to help you to calculate how much you are running. Different applications can be used in various areas of your life. On the financial aspect, again, use technology to help you. Even if something, an application on the phone, is it in Excel, whatever it is, so that it helps you on the budgeting and tracking. We have budget trackers that you can use so that you know your expenses every month. I know people hate taking note of what expenses they are incurring, but use those kind of technology to help you manage your finances and manage other aspects of your life.
Technology, Mr. Kabanda, has both positive and negative influence, I must make mention.
Yeah.
When it comes to having enough rest, like sleeping, you find people, you're just waking up, you're on your phone.
Yeah.
You want to sleep, you don't want to sleep, you're on your phone, the WhatsApp, Instagram, and whatnot.
Yeah.
How can it affect the mindset of you wanting to achieve certain goals, which one puts in place of wanting to achieve in a particular year? How does technology in its negative way affect individuals?
Yeah, so technology on one side, like you said, on one side it's a good thing, on the other side it's also sometimes has its own negative effects. So you have to be in a space where you have some self-discipline. You remember now the applications that are there are really meant for social, for entertainment. So you open, for instance, TikTok, you will not even know how 1 hour went, 3 hours. You'll be finding yourself at 0.3, and they keep on feeding you the things that excite you. So there are so many applications, the social media and so on. So you have to find a way to ask to actually. Sometimes you can even put an alarm that tells you, okay, if it's 23 hours you want to be sleeping, you need to have sufficient time to sleep. I'm saying this, and I know my family are even saying, I sometimes would wake so hard into the night and maybe sleep for a few hours. But again, I've also even made the personal resolution to now even put an alarm.
I was about
just
to ask
actually
you
sleep.
one of your resolutions as well.
Yeah, that's also one of my resolutions. So now I've put an alarm for sleeping and having waking up, so that the moment that alarm goes, I should, no matter what I'm doing, shut down and just sleep. Because sometimes you can be busy working, or you can be on social media, whatever it is, and you just find time is gone. So the body needs enough rest, and the brain actually needs enough rest so even for your health goals and all those kind of things. We can go into those details, but key to everything is we should manage technology and not let technology manage us.
Amazing. Now, how often should individuals reflect on their progress and be open to adjusting their goals throughout the year?
Do regular reviews, because, like we said, things will be happening every month. Even though you have made a plan for 12 months or the next 5 years, you still need to do regular reviews so that you know where you're standing, things that may not have happened, what do you need to change. So again, most of us, we will set the goals, the resolutions as we call them, and even the year will finish. When we cross over, we can't even reflect and see, okay, what did I plan last year? So no, we should be actually, even maybe a monthly basis or after every 3 months in a quarter, you're checking, okay, how am I improving? So that you're checking the progress you're making towards the same goals that you set for yourself.
There are some individuals, even after achieving certain goals, they still can't celebrate them, saying that, oh, these are too little and whatnot. So when it comes to celebrating achievements, no matter how small it is vital.
That's
Must
true.
make mention. Now, how can individuals effectively celebrate their successes?
Really, we have seen people who generally we consider to be very successful, yet they are very depressed, or they are very miserable individuals. Some end up even taking drugs, others end up killing themselves, because even when we aspire to do something. You can be a musician, you can be a politician, you can be an employee, while people are envying what you have achieved, yet you feel depressed. So what we emphasize is that every goal you set for yourself, every achievement you're making, celebrate it. Okay, because what that does actually for your brain, remember we talked about dopamine, it gets to be released. And there are several other hormones that actually get to be released to make you feel happy. And they reinforce the behavior and help you to even achieve more and more. So if you are not celebrating those achievements, the little you are making, you are really preparing yourself for depression. Because you might not achieve the bigger goal, but you have achieved some milestones along the way. Of course, the ultimate will be to achieve the overall goal, but if you can achieve the success, and that also goes even in companies and in managers and supervisors, I always emphasize, celebrate with your team every little that you're winning, but remain focused on your main goal.
Amazing, Mr. Kabanda. If we can read some of the text messages which we've received from our viewers. Okay. So the first one reads, how are you? You are doing a good job. I want to find out how many months does maybe this person wanted to say, does employer has to give employee a gratuity, because as we are almost 9 months. I am Wilston. Okay,
we don't know exactly where, if the person's contract provided for gratuity, or they are still in employment, or this is a person who has left employment. From the message we can't really tell, but generally, and I'm speaking generally for now, so if the contract is a long-term contract, which is more than 12 months, the people who are under that contract are entitled to gratuity of not less than 25% of the basic pay. And if the situation is where actually the person has left employment and they worked for their gratuity and all other terminal benefits, the terminal benefits should be paid at the end of employment, on the last day. And if the employer can't pay on the last day, then they should quickly engage the employee and make a plan when they are going to pay.
Amazing.
But the requirement by law is that the employee should be paid on the last day. So if the situation is that that person is an ex-employee, again, they have the right to go to the labor office for assistance.
Amazing. This one reads, enjoying the program.
Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it.
Amazing, Mr. Kabanda. Thank you very much for making time to be on Labor Matters. We really appreciate your presence. We don't take it for granted. You are doing an amazing job.
Thank you so much.
As we wrap up the conversation, Mr. Kabanda, any final words of encouragement for our viewers as they embark on setting and achieving their annual personal goals this year?
Yeah, really, for me, it's to just appreciate, first of all, everyone who followed us last year. It was an amazing time. Those who gave us feedback, like you said at the beginning of this show, it's really something we're not taking for granted. And coming now for this year, and the colleagues who are setting the targets, again, is to encourage them. Like we have said, set realistic targets, but again, keep on improving. Keep on really improving yourself in every aspect of your life. Again, also, it's to emphasize that make sure you are not measuring yourself against every other person, but also yourself, because sometimes that's what leads to depression, which you don't need. Be proud of yourself. Whatever little thing you have achieved, it is you. And never let anybody look down on you and you start feeling bad about yourself. No. Be proud of yourself and just keep improving yourself.
Amazing. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Here, we're now saying goodbye. but please make sure that you go on the Facebook page, which is KBN TV, and get to drop us comments and contributions if you've just joined us, because we're streaming live on Facebook. I have been talking to Mr. Owen Kabanda, who is an employment expert right here on KBN TV. As I mentioned earlier, that Labor Matters, it is a KBN TV and Mr. Owen Kabanda's program, which comes every Sunday at 14 hours as we get to talk about issues to do with employment. Please do follow him on all social media platforms. I'm talking about YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. For such kind of conversations, you'll find them on his personal profiles. I have been your host, Patricia Chilamiko. Until next week, Sunday, same time and same channel. It's goodbye.